Bioko is an island 32 kilometers off the west coast of Africa, specifically Cameroon, in the Gulf of Guinea. It is the northernmost part of Equatorial Guinea with a population of 260,462 at the 2001 census and an area of 2,017 kilometers (2). It is volcanic with its highest peak the Pico Basile at 3,012 m. Geography: Bioko has a total area of 2,017 kilometers (2). It is 70 kilometers long from NNE to SSW and about 32 kilometers across. It is volcanic and very mountainous with the highest peak Pico Basile. It thus resembles neighboring islands Sao Toma Copyright and Pra and Cipe. Like them, it lies on the Cameroon line. Bioko used to be the end of a peninsula attached to the mainland in what is now Cameroon, but it was cut off when sea levels rose 10,000 years ago at the end of the last ice age. Demographics: the island has a population of 260,462 inhabitants. Formerly most of these belonged to the indigenous Bubai people, but they have long since become a minority, outnumbered by others who originated from Rio Muni, Nigeria, and Cameroon. The rest of the population are Fernandinos, Spaniards, and other immigrants. Etymology: Bioko's native name is Icho from the Bube language. The Portuguese navigator Fernão Odo Pascal cubed in 1472 named it Formosa Flora, but in 1494 it was renamed by Europeans as Fernão Odo Pascal cubed. History: the island was inhabited in the middle of the first millennium BC by Bantu tribes from the mainland who formed the Bubai ethnic group. Unlike other islands in the area, Bioko had an indigenous African population. Still a distinct ethnic group on the island today, these indigenous people, the Bubai, speak a Bantu language. The island was probably inhabited by this or other Bantu-speaking groups since before the 7th century BC. In 1472, the Portuguese navigator Fernão Odo Pascal cubed was the first European to visit the island. He named it Formosa Flora, but in 1494 it was renamed after it was claimed by the Portuguese. The Portuguese developed the island for sugar cane crops, and while considered poor quality, the refinery's output was such that Fernando Po sugar briefly dominated the trade centers in Europe. In 1642, the Dutch East India Company established trade bases on the island without Portuguese consent, temporarily centralizing from there its slave trade in the Gulf of Guinea. The Portuguese appeared again on the island in 1648, replacing the Dutch company with one of their own, also dedicated to slave trading and established in its neighbor island Corisco. Parallel with this establishment, the Bubai clans began the slow process of establishing the core of a new kingdom on the island, especially after the activity of some local chiefs such as Milambo. During a period when enslavement was increasing in the region, local clans abandoned their coastal settlements and settled in the safer hinterland. Under the Treaty of El Pardo in 1778, Portugal ceded to Spain Fernando Po, and Nobucubden and the Guinea coast, Rio Muni, together forming modern Equatorial Guinea. The treaty was signed by Queen Mary I of Portugal and King Charles III of Spain, in exchange for territory on the American continent. Spain then mounted an expedition to Fernando Po, led by the Conde Arglajos, who stayed for 4 months. In October 1778, Spain installed a governor on the island who stayed until 1780, when the Spanish mission left the island. Chief Milambo was succeeded by another local leader, Larite, who was succeeded by Lupoa. After abolishing their slave trade, from 1827 to 1843 the British leased bases at Port Clarence and San Carlos for their anti-slavery patrols. The settlement at Port Clarence was constructed under the supervision of William Fitzwilliam Owen, who had previously mapped most of the coasts of Africa and was a zealous anti-slaver. During his 3-year command, his forces detained 20 ships and liberated 2,500 slaves. The Court of Mixed Commission was moved from Freetown to Clarence to hasten the legal process. In March 1843, Juan José Copyright Lorena planted the Spanish flag in Malabo, starting the decline of British influence on the island. The British lease was finally revoked in 1855. Madabita and Sipoko were principal local chiefs during the re-establishment of Spanish rule on the island. This period was also marked by the immigration of several hundred Afro-Cubans as well as tens of Spanish scholars and politicians. Spain exiled 218 Philippine Revolution rebels here, of which only 94 survived. In 1923–1930, the League of Nations investigated the transportation of migrant labor between Liberia and the Spanish colony of Fernando Po. Although the League concentrated its attention on Liberia, a closer examination revealed labor abuse as the product of conditions on Fernando Po. In the last quarter of the 19th century, black planters on the island had shifted from palm oil trading to cocoa cultivation. Their dependence on migrant labor and increasing competition with Europeans resulted in an economic crisis in the first years of the 20th century. Planters detained labor but failed to pay contracts, resulting in a situation of de facto slavery. During the Nigerian Civil War in the 20th century, relief agencies used the island as a base for flights into Biafra. Today, Malabo is the capital city of Equatorial Guinea and the largest city on the island. The island is mostly covered by tropical rainforest. Located on Punta Europa, west of Malabo, the Alba gas plant processes natural gas delivered from offshore production wells. The plant is operated by Marathon Oil Company through its subsidiary, Marathon Equatorial Guinea Production Limited. The plant produces natural gas liquids including propane, butane, and condensate products. The majority of the residue gas from the Alba plant is delivered to a natural gas liquefaction plant operated by EGLNG. A portion of the Alba plant residue is also delivered to the Atlantic Methanol Production Company and is used to produce methanol. The products from all three plants are loaded onto ocean-going tanker ships for export. A rectangular transport route links the four main cities, Malabo, Luba, Beni, and Riaba. Cultural references: Fernando Pascal cubed is mentioned throughout the Illuminatus trilogy, by Robert Shear and Robert Anton Wilson. Spelled Fernando Po, the island is mentioned in John Brunner's 1968 novel Stand on Zanzibar. See also. References: Room, Adrian. African Plus in Ames. Jefferson, North Carolina, McFarland. ISBN 0-89950-943-6, Sundiata, Ibrahim K. Equatorial Guinea, Colonialism, State Terror, and the Search for Stability. Boulder, Colorado, Westview Press. ISBN 0-8133-0429-6, Janikowski, Leopold Lalda Fernando Po, Sanitat Actuales Habitants, the island of Fernando Po, its current state and its inhabitants. Janikowski, Leopold. La isla de Fernando Pascal cubed o, su estado actual y sus habitants, the island of Fernando Po, its current state and its inhabitants. Pages 67–77 and 201–211. Janikowski, Leopold W. Darwin Quarter and Glach Orfraki. Wspomnienia z Polskiego Proiofraku SKIJW Litach 1882–90, in the African Jungle. Memories of the Polish Expedition to Africa in the years 1882–1890. Warsaw, Poland, Wydornictwo Morskij 1 Kolędzianage. Skite Geocubed Ni, Instytut Wydorn. Biblioteca Polska SA archived from the original on April 9, 2015. Retrieved April 9, 2015. External links: Bioko Biodiversity Protection Program, Gulf of Guinea Conservation Group, Virginia Morrill, Island Arc, National Geographic Magazine August 2008. Link